When in September 1995, Michael and Lisa appeared together at the MTV Awards. She sat at his side looking off and miserable. She was tired of arguing, tired of trying to save him from himself. She had recently called Catherine Jackson to ask what she thought she should do about Michael's instances that he continued to have young boys in his life. I want to save this marriage, but I also want to save Michael, she said, according to what Catherine later recalled to her friend. He's just looking for trouble. What can I do? This whole thing is freaking me out. I don't know what you can do, but I know what you can't do. You can't try to tell him what to do, Catherine advised her daughter in law. She told her what many people already knew. Michael does what he wants to do. She also suggested that Lisa call Johnny Cochran, seeing that the attorney might be the one to address the issue with Michael. Lisa calls Johnny. My God, it's all so innocent, this business with kids, Johnny told her. He suggested that if she wanted to save her marriage, she would have to let Michael be who Michael is. You would think she could have hid it for just one night in front of the cameras? Michael later complains to his mother about Lisa's glowing appearance in the MTV Awards. But no, not her. She puts her feelings right out there, doesn't she? She's so open. But that's what you liked about her, Catherine reminded him. Yeah, but now it's working against me, Michael observed. Despite the fact that their marriage seemed in trouble, Michael was still pushing for Lisa to become pregnant. Whenever he brought up the subject of having children, though, Lisa acted as if it wasn't a serious issue for them. I mean it, he told her, according to her recollection. I'm very serious. I want us to have children. I don't think you're hearing me, he said. However, Lisa had heard him loud and clear. She had two children with Johnny Clark. She knew how much he loved them, could never live a single day without them. Projecting ahead, she wondered what would happen to the child she and Michael would have if the marriage ended. When I imagined having a child with him, she confirmed in 2003, all I could ever see was a custody battle nightmare. Also, after getting to know Michael better and watching his day to day interactions with people, she became convinced that he was too emotionally immature to raise a child. I think he needs a parent, she told one confident, and maybe he shouldn't be one himself yet. However, she wouldn't tell him all of that at the time. Instead, she just hoped he would give up on the idea, at least for the time being. Also, by this time, the heated physical intimacy Lisa had enjoyed with Michael had cooled. It could have only lasted so long without real communication between them. She decided to use their wanting physical intimacy as an excuse. I think we, ha- I think we have to have in order for me to get pregnant, she told him, according to what she later recalled. And you know what? I ain't doing it. Michael wasn't convinced that he and Lisa had to engage in sexual activity in order to have a family of their own. He wanted children. That was his chief goal, and he had made it clear. The question then became how to achieve it. Finally, one day after breakfast, he told her, Look, my friend Debbie says she will get pregnant and have my baby. If you want to do it, then she will. How about that? Lisa didn't know how to take Michael's statement. Was it a challenge, a threat, or just a fact? It certainly wasn't the kind of news most wives will become hearing from their husbands. If you don't have my baby, my nurse will. She was amazed by the seriousness of his tone. Who would then raise this child? She, Michael, Debbie, or just Michael alone? Life with Michael Jackson was getting a little weird for her, as if it had been weird enough up until that time. She met his discreet, direct gaze calmly. No kidding, she remarked. Well, cool then, that's fine with me, she said in a controlled tone. Tell her to go ahead and do it. The weeks slipped into months. By the winter of 1995, Lisa and Michael weren't even speaking and not because Lisa didn't want to communicate with him, but because she simply could not find him. She didn't know his whereabouts, only that he was not at Neverland, and no one in his camp would give her any information after spending about a week trying to find him. There was a floral delivery from him at her home in Hidden Hills. Dozens of red roses with a card that read, Love Michael, under the circumstances. The gesture made no sense. Exasperated, she threw the flowers into the trash. At about this time, she was already furious with him because of the cover story in TV Guide, during which he was quoted as saying, as she told him Elvis once had a nose job. He was quoting me. Presley told me Elvis had a nose job, which was absolute BS. She never calls. I read and I threw it across the kitchen. I told you what? It was getting nasty, she recalled 10 years later. I was ready to kill him, I swear to God. In December 1995, Michael finally returned to Neverland. Priscilla Presley decided to pay him a surprise visit to find out what was going on with her son in law. When she arrived, she saw Michael in the living room playing with about a dozen babies, all crawling about, some laughing, some crying, recalled Monica Pastel. It was like a big nursery with a grown man in the middle of all. Seeming in a state of bliss, though nothing wrong was going on, she was flabbergasted. It was so unsettling. Priscilla left immediately. Lisa was speechless when her mother confronted her about what she'd seen. A week later, Michael went to New York to begin rehearsals for a concert at the Beacon Theater, Michael Jackson One Night Only, which was scheduled to be broadcast on cable television to 250 million viewers on December 9th. On December 6th, he collapsed during a practice session and was hospitalized at New York's Beth Israel North Hospital. His doctors said he was suffering from heart arrhythmia or irregular heartbeat prompted by severe dehydration, gastroenteritis, and a chemical imbalance affecting his liver and kidneys. He also had a viral infection, yet earlier in the day, he seemed fine. Marcel Maricou, who was going to make an appearance on the HBO program during Michael's performance of Childhood, had been at the rehearsal when Michael collapsed. He was so full of energy and absolute wonderful condition, said the mime, who turned away for a moment during Michael's practice session of black or white under the hot and blinding lights. I heard silence, said the mime, and everything stopped. I looked and he was on the floor. By the time medics appeared on the site, Michael's heartbeat was irregular and his blood pressure low. He had on so much makeup they had to check his parlor by the color of his chest when they lifted his shirt. As soon as he was checked into the hospital, Michael's press people telephoned Lisa in Los Angeles and, with frantic explanations, begged her to fly to her husband's side. Hell no, was her response. Screw him, I'm not going. Why should I? She wasn't going to get out of it that easily, however. Michael's collapse had made big news. Jacko on his Becco screamed the front page of the New York Post. The hospital even set up a telephone number with daily automatic message updates on his condition. The media had assembled in front of the hospital, waiting for his wife to arrive to be with him. His people then badgered her people about Michael's image and how it would look if his wife wasn't at his side. After all, even Diana Ross has showed up finally, and surprisingly to her friends anyway, Lisa gave in. Arriving at the hospital the next day wearing a black peacoat and sunglasses, she was whisked through a side entrance. It's possible that Michael really didn't want Lisa to be with him. However, when she got there, he must have been sorry she agreed to the public relations maneuver. She stood up with fire in her eyes. When she walked into the room, the first thing that hit Lisa was all the framed posters of Shirley Temple as a child star, Mickey Mouse, and Topo to Go, the strange little puppet mouse popular from the old Ed Sullivan Show in the 1950s and 1960s. When Lisa looked down at Michael, he appeared to be on his deathbed. It seemed as if he had tubes coming out of every limb. He reminded her she would later say of the pathetic creature of E.T. at the end of the movie, where the alien is taking a turn for the worse. As she stood there, E.T. gazed up at her weakly and mustered all his strength. Managed to say, "Hi, Lisa, how are you?" Lisa wasn't moved. She didn't care about Michael's health, not at that moment anyway. She suspected that he wasn't suffering from exhaustion or dehydration. He had long ago confided in her about his panic attacks. According to those who knew her well, she figured out that he suffered another, and based on his destabilized condition, that had been quite a jolt to his system, surely. Though it wasn't because of the upcoming concert, she speculated. He made many such appearances. Why would this particular one cause such a reaction? The broadcast had actually now been postponed indefinitely, casting costing both Michael and HBO a fortune. It would never happen. Whatever was going on with him was serious. Now that Michael was a captive audience, she wanted to confront him. So, where had he been? Why is he so anxious? Most important, where did she stand with him? Michael usually tries to avoid confrontation, so for his wife to barge into his safe hospital haven was upsetting. His heart must have been thundering in his chest. Making matters more tense was that the fact that the Castillo brothers had just left the room 5 minutes earlier. Had Lisa seen them? Was it difficult to tell? Her face was that impassive, but it's likely she wouldn't even have recognized them now. Still, it was a close call. Lisa closed the door behind her. She and Michael even engaged in their private, and judging from the shouting going on in the room, hers, not his, heated conversation. "I'm like a lion. I roar," she would say in 2003. "I won't be a victim. I don't sulk. I get angry. I go immediately into rehabilitation. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with him," she recalled. "I started asking questions, and it was always a different story. He said I was causing trouble and stirring up problems. He told me, 'You're making my heart rate go up,' and asked me to leave. I said, 'Good, I want out. This is insane. All of it.'" When the doctor to Michael's when the doors of Michael's room opened, Lisa burst out is shot from a cannon, past everyone in the hall and straight to the elevators. "Mrs. Jackson!" exclaimed one of the doctors. "My goodness, your husband cannot be upset like this. He is much too fragile. If you are going to do this, you'll not be able to visit him." Lisa gave him a sharp look. Michael's mother, who had been pacing in the hallway, regarded her daughter in law intensely. She could not fathom what Lisa would fly the way from Los Angeles to New York just to fight with her son. Janet, who had also rushed to be at her brother's side, had just gone to the ladies' room. As Lisa stood waiting for the elevator, Catherine walked up to her and exploded in stunned disbelief. "What is wrong with you, Lisa?" she hissed. "You're so spoiled. I couldn't believe that you would do this to Michael." At that moment, the elevator opened and Lisa got into it. She turned, faced Catherine, and gave her a critical look. Luckily for Catherine, the elevator's doors didn't slam closed between them. Lisa wanted to see Michael the next day. "Absolutely not," Michael Sanders told her. There had been a meeting with Jackson family members, and it was decided that Lisa was an agonizing presence in Michael's life, and that he should now be protected from her at all costs. Furious, Lisa went back to Los Angeles. Perhaps a clue to Michael's behavior, his distancing himself from him and Lisa is subsequent. A apparent panic attack can be found in analyzing a chain of events from late 1995. It will be many years later that Debbie Rowe will reveal that she became pregnant that December. Michael had certainly gave Lisa fair warning that Debbie would have his baby if she wouldn't do it. "Tell her to go ahead and do it," Lisa has said. If she was being sarcastic, perhaps Michael didn't catch that mockery. Did Lisa know about the pregnancy? I don't think Debbie even know yet, observed Monica Pastel. I think by the time Michael was and is back in the hospital, she was only a couple of weeks pregnant. As for Lisa, if she had known, do you think Michael would have still been drawing breath if she had left that hospital room? It, it certainly appears whether that Michael was a fast worker, excuse me, he realized that his marriage was in trouble or that he had a master plan to father a child once and for all, which did not involve his wife. Some have said that Michael and Debbie were intimate. Others have said Debbie was not his type and insist that they were underwent the process of artificial insemination shortly before Michael ended up in the hospital. Since no one who knows them well enough to be privy to such information wants to discuss it. Debbie's pregnancy remains one of Michael's most sensitive secrets. I can only tell you that I did not discuss it with him, said one of his advisors. I did not want any more information about any of it. When Michael was released from the hospital after a week, he went off to Eurydice in France to recuperate. He must have had at least half a dozen children with him, judging from photographs taken on his vacation. On January 18th, 1996, I appeared on CNN to announce that Lisa Marie Presley had filed for divorce from Michael Jackson. In her petition, she noted the date of separation as December 10th, 1995, just after she saw Michael in the hospital. This person is one of the biggest entertainers out there, Lisa told Newsweek in 2003. He is not stupid. He is very charming when he wants to be. And when you go into his world, you step into this whole other realm. I could tell you all about the craziness, all these things that were odd, different, evil, or not cool. But it still took me 2.5 years to get my head out of it. In March 1996, Deburau suffered a miscarriage. I was just devastated, she has said. I thought I'll never be able to have a baby, and I really wanted to have this. Michael was there to console me the whole time. It's fascinating in retrospect that Debbie's pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage, as well as her very existence in Michael's life, had still escaped public scrutiny. It seems incredible that someone of Michael's celebrity status could be married to one woman and planning a baby with another, and no one in the media would catch on any of it. How, one wonders, did he manage it? Carefully, responded someone in Michael's camp, only half kidding. Very carefully, or perhaps not very well at all. It could be argued if, in fact, he had a panic attack over it. Michael's divorce from Lisa was finalized on August 20th, 1996. As part of the settlement, Lisa received 10% of royalties from Jackson's History album. According to the agreement, she was allowed to write a tell-all book about her marriage if she ever chose to do so. She did not sign a so-called confidentiality agreement. At the time, though, Lisa just wanted to get on with her life and career. She said that she had great regard for Michael and refused to speak critically of him. She knew that she wasn't entirely venal. She just didn't know at this point what to think of him. So she chose to pursue her dignity by keeping sacred their private life together. 7 years later, though, in the spring of 2003, Lisa began to discuss her frustration as Michael's wife during the promotion of her long anticipated debut album, To Whom It May Concern, on Capitol Records. Michael was deeply conflicted by the end of his marriage to Lisa. His heart flowed with despair. Never before had he connected with a woman or maybe even another person on the level that he had with her, she had been there when he most needed her. During the dark days of the allegations and drug abuse, she's like a force of nature, he said of her, always there for me. I don't know how I will be with her. He also had a strong sexual connection to her, and that had been a first for him. Previously, he had been able to open himself up, feel uninhabited, and truly physically intimate with anyone. However, for some reason, he was able to let himself go with Lisa, who knows why. It's easy to be skeptical of Michael's relationship with her, but doing so risks ignoring his obvious humanity despite the plastic surgeries and many friendships with boys, and all of the rest of the eccentric behavior that goes into making Michael Jackson such a strange individual. He is still a human being with emotions, feelings, and a beating heart, and somehow Lisa Marie Presley was the one who truly touched it. It truly affected him. I'm afraid it'll never happen for me again, he said at the time. I'm scared to death, and it's over for me now. Indeed, it was difficult for him to let it go. Michael spent a couple of weeks lamenting what had occurred with Lisa. Lisa said that the part of him that is critical of him, the being child part of him, really kicked in after the divorce was finalized, said Monica Pastel. He wanted to call and talk to his best friend, her. He didn't want to let go. She needed space, though. She really needed time away from him. She felt that he had really screwed with her mind, and she got sick and her body started breaking down after the divorce. She poured her life into him. Now she needed to reclaim it for herself. She had a hard time with that. In the end, Michael Jackson had no choice but to go on alone. He was a survivor, he told himself. He had music to work on, career commitments, a huge world tour coming up with a show that, as always, demanded his complete focus. Besides, he and Lisa had different goals in life. He wanted to raise children, she already had two, and had made it clear that she didn't want any more with him. Michael wasn't used to waiting for other people to catch up with him and with his goals. When Debbie Rose said she would have his baby, he jumped at the opportunity. With glacial determination replacing his despondency, he was already ready to push on forward. That had always been his way. At the age of 38, he wasn't going to change.